lives in the war, 502 of whom came from New Mexico. The New Mexican soldiers who fought in World War I were recognized for their bravery, fearlessness, and thanks to their rural upbringing, their ruggedness and outstanding marksmanship. And whereas this year, November 11th, marks the 100th anniversary of the signing of the armistice, the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month that brought an end to the war. And whereas the loss of life and destructiveness of World War I led many to believe it would be the war to end all wars, with the hope that the horrors of the conflict would convince mankind to abandon war as a means of solving political disputes. Armistice Day was then designated as a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be thereafter celebrated. And whereas the United States joins countries across the globe in remembering all the wars in which the United States has engaged, the bravery of the men and women who fought them, and the many sacrifices they and their families have made to secure freedom for Americans and peoples across the globe. Armistice Day remembers not just those who fought. If you would just state your name for the record before you speak.
I'm Charles Powell, and I'm president of the Donald and Sally Alice Thompson chapter of Veterans for Peace. That was asking churches and other places with bells to ring them at 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month. And having this proclamation from the commission is helping to also make this November 11th special. So I want to thank Commissioner Hart Stebbins and all of the commissioners for doing this, for helping to make Armistice Day special this year.
Good evening. My name is Major General Kenneth Nava. I'm the Adjutant General of the New Mexico National Guard. Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, I want to thank you very much for doing this proclamation. I am one of the World War I commissioners for the state of New Mexico, and it is a very special time, and we appreciate your willingness to make this proclamation and help the residents of Bernalillo County remember what occurred 100 years ago. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, my name is Ken O'Keefe. I'm the President of the United Veterans Council of New Mexico. We'll be hosting the Veterans Day program on the 11th, which is a Sunday this year. Commissioner Stebbins, I'll read the proclamation during that event. And music will start at 10. The program proper will start at 11. Charles and his group will ring the Lobo Victory Bell. It's fairly well unused. That was nasty, I apologize. I'm a Notre Dame guy. But they'll ring the bell 11 strokes right at 1100. General Jack Fox, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs for New Mexico, will be our principal speaker, and we hope to have a good turnout. You're all invited.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, my name is Alan Martinez. I'm the Deputy Secretary for Department of Veteran Services. This year, as we mark the 100th year anniversary of Armistice Day, it's important to remember that New Mexico was sending people to defend this nation when New Mexico was 6 years old. And since then, and even before that, New Mexico has held a proud tradition of taking care of those men and women who have fought for our freedom. I appreciate the Commission and taking a stand for this, and I appreciate your support.
So again, I want to thank you, and if you would honor us by joining us here at the dais, we have some certificates for you.
This way.
Lead the way. All right.
We'll move on to item 4B, Nurse Practitioners Week Proclamation. Commissioner Hart Stebbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I believe we have Michelle Peacock here. She's just come in. Actually, Michelle should have joined the group at the dais just a few minutes ago because she is also a proud veteran of our United States Army. So, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you want to be at the dais, I'll read this and then give you an opportunity to say a few words if you would like. So this is a proclamation for National Nurse Practitioner Week. So this is a proclamation by the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners. Whereas nurse practitioners serve as trusted frontline healthcare providers for patients in our state, and nurse practitioners are highly skilled practitioners with advanced education and clinical training, building upon their initial registered nurse preparation. And whereas there are more than 248,000 licensed nurse practitioners in the United States and 1,995 in New Mexico, providing primary, acute, and specialty care to patients of all ages and walks of life. And whereas, in addition to diagnosing and treating acute and chronic conditions, nurse practitioners focus on health promotion, disease prevention, and health education and counseling, guiding patients to make smarter health and lifestyle choices. And whereas the confidence that patients have in nurse practitioner-delivered health care is evidenced by the more than 1 billion annual patient visits made to nurse practitioners across the country. More than 5 decades of research demonstrates the high quality of care provided by nurse practitioners. And whereas better utilization of nurse practitioners through modernized state laws and improved system policies creates better health through a more accessible, efficient, cost-effective, and higher quality healthcare system. And whereas 22 states in the District of Columbia have implemented full practice authority for nurse practitioners, granting patients full and direct access to the outstanding care offered by these healthcare providers. And whereas leading governmental and policy entities, including the National Academy of Medicine, National Council of State Boards of Nursing, National Governors Association, and Federal Trade Commission have taken notice of the benefits of the nurse practitioner full practice authority and have endorsed such a regulatory model. And whereas Bernalillo County is proud to join those organizations to recognize and honor the service of nurse practitioners in our state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim November 11th through 17th, 2018 as National Nurse Practitioner Week in recognition of the countless contributions nurse practitioners have made over the past half century and will continue to make to the health and well-being of the citizens of our county and our state. Done this 28th day of October, 2018 in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico, and this is signed by all 5 commissioners. So thank you very much for being here, and you are welcome to say a few words.
So on the behalf of the New Mexico Nurse Practitioner Council, who does represent all nurse practitioners in our state, we want to say thank you to the County Commission. New Mexico has been actually the forerunner in front of all other states for full practice authority for nurse practitioners. Because we are a rural state, most NPs actually practice in New Mexico in rural cities. And so after 25 years in the state of New Mexico of full practice authority, we want to say thank you and hope everyone has a nurse practitioner as a provider. Yes. If you want a nurse practitioner, let me know and we'll get you hooked up, okay? So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great evening. And again, remember, nurse practitioners are where it's at.
And would you please state your name for the record? I'm not sure people know, and your guest.
Oh, yes.
I'm Linda Tilka.
And I'm Michelle Peacock. I am the nurse practitioner supervisor at the Albuquerque VA and an OIF veteran of 13 years in the Army Nurse Corps.
Yes, well, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for being here tonight, and we'd love for you to come and pick up this certificate.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5, certificates and awards. I would like to recognize Manuel Garcia, if you're here, if you please can come up to the dais.
Commissioner, I'm trying to bring his family up here.
That's
That way they
okay,
can take a photo with
that's
him.
what we want.
Other than that, I'm going to step back.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this, and then we want to hear a few words from you, my wife.
Okay.
All right? Okay, so this is a certificate of recognition given to Manuel Garcia, Bernalillo County Parks and Recreation, for your recent induction to the Colorado State University Pueblo Hall of Fame in Wrestling on September 29th, 2018. Manuel Garcia wrestled for Colorado State University Pueblo from 1990 to 1993, where he received his Bachelor of Science degree in kinesiology?
Yes.
Okay, I said it right. Manuel was a 1991 NAIA national champion at 118 pounds, 3-time All-American 6th place in 1990, first place in 1991, second place in 1993. Manuel was the NAIA Division II West Regional Champion in 1992 with a career record of 97, 24, and 1 with 12 pins. Manuel helped his team become a national runner-up in 1991, and his team and his 1991 teammates were inducted into the class of 2017 USC Pueblo Hall of Fame, making Manuel a 2-time Hall of Famer. After graduating from Colorado State University Pueblo, Manuel volunteered his time coaching junior wrestling. Manuel also coached wrestling at Albuquerque High School for 9 years, and in 2011, Manuel was honored with the New Mexico Wrestlers Association Hall of Fame induction, making him a 3-time Hall of Famer. Prior to attending the Colorado State University Pueblo, Manuel was also outstanding wrestler at Rio Grande High School, where he was a 3-time state champion in 1986 at 98 pounds, and in 1987 at 105 pounds, and in 1990 at 119 pounds. Manuel joined Bernalillo County in 1998 as a youth program supervisor at the Juvenile Detention Center. In 2000, he was promoted to the youth program officer, and in 2004, Manuel was promoted to an assistant center manager at Paradise Hills Community Center, and in 2013, he moved to Los Padillas Community Center, and earlier this year, he was promoted to community center manager for the Los Padillas Community Center, where he continues to serve. Thank you so much for your public service to our community and to Bernalillo County and Parks and Recreation and our open space. Bro, you make us very proud. This is presented this day, October 23rd, 2018, signed by all the county commissioners. Manuel.
All right, first of all, I just want to thank the Board of Commission for recognizing my accomplishments and stuff. I want to thank my family for all their support, especially my wife, for all those years. I have all 4 of my sons here, which I have Johnny, Philip, Nicholas, Justin, and my grandson, Angelo. And one important person that's standing back there is one of my mentors that helped me be where I'm here today. His name is Michael Lujan, and he would like to say a few words after I'm done here. I would like to thank everybody from my administration, from Parks and Rec, all my friends and family, and everybody here. And again, thank you, the Board of Commissioners, for the recognition.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm a Rio Grande Raven graduate myself. I also went to Southern Colorado. The only problem that I had with Manny, he never wants to challenge me for a takedown. So I told him maybe we can wrestle in front of everybody and Debbie Joe can be the referee. But anyway, I just want to say something that makes me feel so proud. My heart is so big right now that I remember this young man when he was a little baby. As a matter of fact, I graduated with her mother. She wasn't my girlfriend. That's my wife right there. I don't want you know. But we were partners in school. You know, we both graduated. And I remember when he was born. And I'm so proud of this man because he was one guy from the South Valley, and I'm a South Valley boy myself, that nobody would thought he would accomplish what he accomplished. And he has been a big mentor to a lot of kids in the South Valley, and I love him for that. I was a teacher and a coach for 40 years myself in Santa Fe Public Schools. And we always communicated for many years. And I'm so proud of you, Manny, that you became what you are today. God bless you. You got a beautiful family. And behind of every success woman and man, there's a woman behind his back that made him a champion also. So we have to give her that credit too. Manny, God bless you. And someday I will try to wrestle you somewhere. Maybe not here, but maybe in heaven. Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for your hard work and making the difference in the Bernalillo County. You've done a great job, and God bless you, and my heart goes to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And by the way, Kenneth Nava, the little guy that was a 2-star general that was here today, he was in my second grade classroom in Santa Fe Public Schools.
All right. Manuel, come on up and bring your family.
We got the big superintendent for Parks and Rec over here.
There we go. See here? Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Cool.
Okay, we'll now go on to item 5B, Human Resources Employee Recognition Program Awards. Madam County Manager, I assume.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's always my pleasure to make this presentation in front of you, and so we're going to be announcing the employees of the quarter for the first quarter in 2019. So if you all could please come down. And I think what I'll do, Candace, want to come on down? We're going to go ahead and get started. So Candace joined the county in 2005 at the Sheriff's Office. She is currently the Benefits Financial Administrator in the Human Resources Department, where she oversees employee billing in relation to their benefit withholdings, military leave, and works one-on-one with the medical, dental, vision, and other benefit vendors. In addition to being the go-to person for nearly anything in HR, and we know that because we're always calling Candace. She always played a critical role in the United Way and still does as a department liaison. And so we're happy to have you represent the campaign manager for the second consecutive year. So when she's not at work, she enjoys time with her husband Matthew and her 5 crazy dogs. She also volunteers at Albuquerque High School with a cheerleading team, teaching not only the physical routines, but also respect, discipline, and the importance of academics and being responsible teammates and citizens. So Candace, thank you so much and congratulations. Next, if Jill Williams would come on up. Hi, Jill. Jill worked for the county for a total of 8 years and is currently a GIS analyst in the GIS technology section of the Planning and Development Services Department. She creates, updates, and maintains the GIS data, maps, and routing for the county's E911 system. The data is provided to emergency communications for their consoles and to IT for the mobile data terminals used by the Sheriff's Office in fire and rescue. She really enjoys the challenges of her job, and I know that that job is super challenging right now, so as to consistently fix and improve the E911 system. She's been married for 19 years to husband Sean, who is also a county employee as a captain and with fire and rescue, and together they have 2 sons. She loves outdoors activities and is going to local festivals. So congratulations, Jill. Thank you. All right, Kevin. Kevin came to the county from IBM in 2013. He's a senior budget analyst in the accounting and budget department, where he is primarily responsible for capital and debt service budgeting. He has been praised for his ability to break down complex issues into manageable projects, and among his colleagues is known as the move forward guy. I believe that for sure. He truly enjoys solving budget issues, conducting research, identifying new sources and methods of funding the budget, and leveraging technology. Outside of his work, he enjoys cycling. He previously raced and enjoyed challenging his athletic performance, but he invests most of his time and energy into time training and conditioning his youngest son, who plays for the New Mexico Rush and his school soccer team. So Kevin, thank you very much. Congratulations. All right. Brian. Oh, Brian's not here. So just really, really quick, Brian started with the county's Fire and Rescue Department in 2001, where he's a lieutenant, and he's a leader in some of the county's best firefighters, and has been said that their success and professionalism is a direct reflection of the positive influence he provides. So unfortunately, he's able to attend tonight, and I didn't know this, and I don't know if you all knew this. His aunt is retiring from Channel 7. So I'm thinking, is that Mary Lynn Roper? Right? Okay. And he is committed to being, so he's committed to being there. So anyway, congratulations to Brian Sherman. Okay. Pedro Villa from Public Works. He's not here as well, but he came to the county from the NMDOT about 2.5 years ago and is currently the road maintenance supervisor for the South Valley. So when he's not at work, he enjoys outdoor activities, traveling, and going to the beach with his wife and his daughter. So congratulations to Pedro. And in general services, Brittany Benavides. Come on up, Brittany. Brittany joined the county about 18 months ago as an accounting assistant 2 in the accounts payable office. And thank you for joining us, because we really needed your help there. She is dedicated and reliable and accepts whatever comes her way with a smile. Everything she does, her great attention to detail ensures quality output. Her work ethic is always appreciated, and AP is especially fortunate to have her during some of the staff shortages it has experienced over the last several months. In her spare time, she loves to go camping with her family or target shooting at the shooting range. She also enjoys some good relaxation time at home with her boyfriend and 2 dogs. So congratulations, Brittany. Thank you. Okay, Gabriel Baca. Come on up, Gabriel. So Gabriel joined the county as an MDC corrections officer in 2009. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2015. He routinely goes above and beyond and demonstrates exemplary job performance. So a recent example is while responding to an officer's call for assistance, he suffered a debilitating leg injury, which caused him to fall to the floor. In spite of this, he proceeded to crawl to the cell in an attempt to provide assistance to his officers. He truly enjoys his job and working with the amazing men and women who all play a part in protecting the public. Gabe is a New Mexico native and New Mexico State University graduate. He is married, has 2 children, and loves spending time with his family and friends. He also enjoys playing horseshoes and is a huge sports fan. So thank you so much, Gabriel, and congratulations. Thank you for your work. Okay, and that concludes our presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations to you all. Thank you for your work and service for Bernalillo County. Come on up. We're going to take a picture. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll now move on to public comment. Public comment, you will have 2 minutes to speak. You'll be given a 30-second notice to wrap up your comments and a final notice when your time is up. When your name is called, please you make your way down to the podium and state your name for the record before you begin your comments.
Mr. Chair, did you want to start on public comment or go into communications? We do have 4 on the agenda that we hear before public comment.
Sure. We can go to communications first, and then we'll go to public comment.
Thank you. The first is finance.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it is my privilege to introduce to you Kate Becker, who's going to be giving the UNMH quarterly update. And I just so everybody knows what quality of a CEO UNMH has, I'm going to just say a few words about her. She came from St. Louis, Missouri, where she was the president of SSM Health St. Louis University Hospital, which she is also, it's also a teaching hospital with a level 1 trauma center, just like UNMH. So prior to SSM Health Hospital, she served as the interim president of the Glennon Children's Hospital in St. Louis and CEO of SLU Care, which is the faculty practice plan for St. Louis University faculty. So all these stops, she was responsible for coordinating the strategic, administrative, and financial objectives of each facility. So her educational background is in public health, where she has her bachelor's and master's degree, and law, and also her law degree, where she has actually her JD degree. So she practiced law for a while. So she's also the 2018 chair of the Metropolitan Hospital Governing Council of the American Hospital Association. She has deep roots in New Mexico, where her grandparents operated a pharmacy here in Albuquerque, and where her father is originally from. So please join me in welcoming Kate Becker to her first county commission meeting. So welcome, Kate.
Thank you. We have a handout that you should have, and I want to go over some of the information in it. But I also want to have a little bit of a conversation about whether this format of report works for you, or whether there is some other format that would be more helpful. So this report is similar to the format that has been previously generated by the hospital. It has a lot of data in it, and we'll continue to provide this data to you. but sometimes it's more helpful if we focus on particular areas as we go through this kind of reporting presentation. So for tonight, I'll just point out a couple of things, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. So first of all, if you look on pages 5 and 6 of your report, you'll see some statistics about hospital performance that are pretty commonly measured. Things like average length of stay, 30-day readmission rates, emergency department visits. These numbers have been fairly stable over time, but particularly if you look on page 6, in terms of number of emergency department visits, left without being seen, average hours in the emergency department from arrival, we have not made a lot of progress as much as we would like in terms of shortening those times and those lengths of waits. So the hospital has recently launched an operational improvement initiative. It's a big engagement, and we have an outside consultant called Lujan engaged with us to help. It's our work to do, but they're supporting us and bringing us some tools and information. They will be focusing on improving our inpatient access and efficiency. So one of the things that we need to get better at is making sure that we have the right patient in the right place for the right length of time, so that we can get that emergency room time shorter and really move people through to the appropriate levels of care. So that's an 18-month engagement. I would expect over the next 6 to 12 months, as you see me coming back with this report, that you should see some significant improvement in these numbers. Any questions about that sort of section? Okay. Next, I would kind of encourage you to turn to, well, not kind of, I would encourage you to turn to page 14. Which talks a little bit about revenue by payer source. So this is a pie chart that basically shows you our payer mix, Medicaid, Medicare, other, and you'll see that the mill levy is reflected here as one of the items which the hospital receives revenue for. I want to say a couple of things about that. First of all, it seems to me, as a new person here, I've been on the job 90 days, actually, that we as a hospital have been technically very compliant in terms of providing information according to the letter of the law. And so we have provided information in terms of what the mill levy funding has been. I don't think that information has been satisfactory to the county and to the commissioners in terms of really giving a little more transparency into the uses of that mill levy and in terms of how we are really supporting and meeting the responsibility that we have. One of my responsibilities as the hospital CEO is to speak at new employee orientation every week, actually. And as part of that, I do say, you know, I live in Bernalillo County now. Most of the folks I'm talking to live in Bernalillo County. Each one of us is paying to support this hospital, whether we ever receive medical care here or not. And we have a responsibility to be good stewards of the support that people are giving us with their hard-earned money. So there are some things that are clearly designated. I'll talk about a little further in the report, like commitments for behavioral health and other services. But what we'd like to do and propose going forward is working with you and with Julie in terms of figuring out what a more satisfactory reporting construct would be that would really meet everybody's needs in terms of a little more clarity around what our support is. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I do. I have a couple of questions on the insurance end of this, since
Sure.
we're here. You have Medicaid and Medicare, and then so insurances, and this is coming from some constituents, and they've heard, and I just want to know if you can answer this question for me, that you are on the providers. We know what has happened with Molina and the exit of that. And so from my understanding that when people are getting other providers now and getting other insurances that, and I don't know if it's true, but they were saying that UNM is going to just only accept one certain type of provider besides Medicaid and Medicare. Is that true, or is that something that is just a false statement going around the community?
No, we are still in contract with all the payers in the
Okay.
community. And one thing that may be coming from is the state has changed Medicaid. So effective January 1st, there are different Medicaid providers for managed care. So Molina is actually leaving the market,
Yeah.
as is United. So that may have given rise to some of that confusion. But we're actually contracted with all of the payers. And Western Sky, which is one of the new payers that has entered the market, we should be finalized with them before the end of the year.
Okay, so it's just, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Any other? No? Okay. Please, you can go ahead and continue.
Oh, thanks. I'd ask you to look at page 16. which sets out grievances and compliments. This was actually in response to a specific provision in the new Memorandum of Understanding. So it's a little bit of information about the number of compliments, which is the red line, and grievances that we've received. This, again, meets the letter of what the MOU says, which is telling you about grievances and complaints. But if I were you, I would probably be looking for something more like, what are the general categories of these sort of things we're doing well and things we have opportunity to improve on? So for example, I can tell you that frequently in grievances, a lot of things fall into the category of lost belongings. You're not really that concerned about that item. On the other hand, you're very concerned about patient care issues, about things where people have concerns of those types. So I'd suggest, but if you have a different opinion, you should tell me, that maybe we work this chart more in terms of the substance of sort of the big buckets for grievances and compliments. So right now it's adequate, but it's not terribly informative. Does that make sense? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would ask you to look at page 26, which I think does give kind of a nice example of one way we may approach going forward the discussion about the mill levy support and what that goes to. This is specifically addressing the behavioral health component of the mill levy support. And so you can see it's broken out to show support for salaries and benefits, medical services and supplies, purchase services, which are some of our physicians and other services that we provide. But this perhaps gives a little more clarity to what we're actually providing. I think it would be helpful as you look at the next few pages. It gives you some more information about our behavioral health services. So you know from the first page kind of what that money is going to, and then from the subsequent pages, who are we treating, adults and children, what's our satisfaction scores for those populations, what are our readmission scores. So it gives you some information about how that's going in addition to knowing what we're paying for. So hopefully that's a little helpful, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
And then the last section I would just direct your attention to is pages 35 through 37, which provides some information about the Native American health services that we provide. So we do meet regularly with the Indian Health Service and do updates with them as well. But this is additional information for you so that you're kind of seeing some of the same information that they are seeing as part of the reporting that we do to them. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I don't think so. Anybody? No.
I do.
Okay. Oh, you do?
You're at the end of the
Commissioner
presentation, right?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. Welcome. We're really delighted that you are the new CEO at University Hospital. I also want to say thank you for your attention to our questions about how the mill levy dollars are used. That's really music to my ears, I think, to others on this board. We have asked repeatedly for some kind of even general accounting for where mill dollars are used so that when we're asked by our constituents and the taxpayers, we can have an intelligent response. So thank you, and as we move forward, we may have better ideas about how that information can be conveyed and displayed. On page 6, you had some information about ER waits. Mm-hmm. I know there was a period of time during which the hospital had very significant waits for people who had been admitted but not yet placed in a bed in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Are there still those challenges?
I think we've made a lot of progress on bed placement. So over the last 3 years, there's been implementation of a system for tracking patients into beds. The tool we use is called teletracking. It's a pretty commonly accepted tool in the industry. And we've made a lot of progress with making sure that we have good visibility to beds being available. And we've had some great performance over the last year from our housekeeping services in really tracking bed by bed. How many minutes has it been? When does it need to be cleaned? Where is it? So that it can become available as soon as possible. So we have made some good progress on that, but there's always opportunity for improvement.
Great. Thank you. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that. Page 34, you have some information about opioid patients and encounters, methadone encounters and Suboxone encounters. And the methadone numbers are significantly higher, like 10 times higher. Is that because of the way it's dosed, or are there just more patients who are receiving methadone treatment as opposed to Suboxone?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I can find out.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then just one last question. So UNM Cares, I'm pretty sure that program still exists. For individuals who make too much money for Medicaid, low income enough that it's a real struggle for them to afford private insurance, can University Hospital provide counseling for those individuals? Or can someone come to the hospital in that situation and get advice about how he or she can obtain coverage?
Yes, we do have financial assistance counselors. We have increased the number, I believe, over the last couple of years of those folks, but I think there's still opportunity for additional availability of that service. Another part of our operational improvement engagement is working on our revenue cycle. So one example is, if any of you have been to any hospital, including ours, you've probably gotten more than one bill, which can be a very frustrating experience for people. So our goal with that work is to do things like get a clarity of billing, single bill, and part of that work would be improving that front end, counseling for patients, making sure people are in the right financial buckets to start with, and then they're on the right path moving forward. So a lot of work to do in that space.
Well, again, I want to welcome you, say how grateful I am for your responsiveness and look forward to working with you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we will move on to, and so was that combined with the behavioral health ISR report? Or is that different? Okay. So, okay, that's Katrina.
Good evening. My name is Katrina Outram. I'm the Director of Behavioral Health Services for Bernalillo County. I know that I sound a little different. I'm sorry. I'll try to speak less, but we all know that that's probably not going to happen. But here with me today is Dr. Paul Guerin. One of the things that we had established when we started the Behavioral Health Initiative, thank you, was doing evaluations and setting the precedent for goal setting and data setting. And we were going to do that on every single program that is being funded by the Behavioral Health Initiative. So in the beginning of the Behavioral Health Initiative, we started investing in different projects and programs. And now we're sort of in this stage 2 where we're in the evaluation stage. What's working, what's not working in all the different programs. One of the first programs that we took over or started was actually Community Connections. And that actually started as a pilot with MDC and then transitioned over to the Behavioral Health Initiative and the Behavioral Health Tax. Well, we just had a recent evaluation that we'd like to share with you today. We're excited, not because we had perfect findings, but more so in the fact that we know that this process is going to work, because if we're willing to be evaluated and we're willing to improve our programs, then it's not so scary when we ask our providers to do the same. And everything that we do and invest in is a pilot, so we can make sure that what we're investing in works for Bernalillo County. So I've got Dr. Paul Guerin with me from UNM ISR that's going to report some of the findings, and then we'll stand for questions.
Good evening, Chairman Casala, members of the Commission. As Katrina noted, my name is Paul Guerin. I work for the Institute for Social Research at the University of New Mexico. The county has contracted with us for the last 2 years to primarily provide technical assistance services, consulting services, and some research services surrounding the implementation of the Behavioral Health Initiative. More recently, since the county has funded more projects, we've moved towards evaluations of different projects that they funded. And as Katrina noted, one of those is of the Community Connections Supportive Housing Program. I think you have it in your packets, and I'll talk briefly about the report, and then I'll stand for any questions you might have. This study is what we refer to as an implementation study of the program. So what we really want to better understand about this program is how has it been implemented and how does it work? We weren't interested at this point in time to actually look at the effectiveness or the impact of the program or the cost of the program. That's somewhere down the road for us. So I think what's important for me to note here is that this is the first stage. So we're at the beginning. We're not at the end. This is a long-term process for the county, I think, and the county has taken a long-term view in terms of their contracting with us. And so I'll briefly go over the report. So what we've done is we've looked at the first year plus of the implementation of the program, looking at clients who are referred to the program, screened by the program, accepted by the program, housed by the program, and served by the program. I think what's important for us is that in this preliminary review, we were not able to complete everything that we would have wanted to do in this study. And it's for a couple of reasons. I think what I'm going to tell you is not that unusual. I've been doing this at the University of New Mexico for a little over 26 years now. And so we're typically finding, I think, an implementation of programs is they're not always implemented the way that we would have wanted them to. So that's what we're looking at. We're trying to figure out how's the program implemented, does it follow a best practice or best model, and how do people enter and transition through the program. Some of the obstacles we found in this that I think are important is the fact that the program contracts with 3 providers. Providers are typically, I think, accustomed to completing their own paperwork, providing services in the way that they've historically provided them. And so this is pretty new for them to actually work more collaboratively together and under the county. I think it's also important to note that the county has taken this vision of looking at performance-based contracting and budgeting. And I think that's different for programs to actually think about how they work collaboratively together and actually collect information and report that information. So what we found here, in fact, is that there are missing records, there's missing data. The program does serve, it does house people, so we found that the program housed quite a few people. We found that the program actually, when they are screening people, that there are some gaps in the process of screening, and we've made some recommendations. So some of the recommendations we've made include the idea of collapsing the screening process to fewer points. So in fact, that you don't lose people from when they get referred to you and then they get screened and they get admitted to the program. We've suggested that the county consider using some kind of automated electronic system. Lots of programs, in fact, especially smaller programs, are largely paper-driven. So it'd be important, I think, to standardize paperwork, to think about how you would make that electronic, and to think about how you would collect data that you could turn more into information, I think, that then you could use to provide you insights into the program. So I think for us, those are some of the important findings. And I think that there's next steps for us. So I think the county has already taken some of the report, and they're thinking about how they can implement some of these changes with the providers and make the program more efficient and more seamless in terms of how people are referred, how they're screened, accepted, housed, and served in that program. I think that's all that I have for now, and I can stand for any questions you might have.
Do you have any questions? No? Commissioner Hart-Stebbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Katrina, for being here. Just a quick question. So Community Connections, how many providers, the county contracts with organizations to provide the wraparound services, so how many providers do you have on contract?
3 case management providers.
Okay, so Crossroads for Women. Who are the other 2?
Healthcare for the Homeless and the University of New Mexico Hospital.
Okay, great. All right, that's all I need to know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the behavioral health in our own words.
Me again. So,
I figured.
Sorry. On steroids. Different story, though. So one of the criticisms that we've had in the Behavioral Health Initiative is that we don't always have our name out there, and people don't always know what we're doing. And so one of the things that we have worked on doing is a short video that sort of describes the program in some of the client's own words. And so here with me today, I've got Brianna Anderson, who is on contract that's doing a lot of our PIO work. Augusta Meyer, you will not only recognize by sight, but by voice on the video. And then we've got the ever-loving Paul Evans, who actually put this video together. And what you're going to see here is clients and services and some of the stuff that describe what we do. This will be the first of a few more sections of videos that we're going to do that explain what we do, explain who we are, and explain where we're going. So with that, we'll just show the video.
I ended up just drinking every single day. It really exaggerated the fact that I was depressed. I was drowning out a bunch of things that happened to me as a child. I was pronounced dead like 2 years ago from an overdose, and I was brought back to life. So I feel like there's a reason why I'm here. I always cut the fat off.
25-year-old Josh is in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program at Bernalillo County's Metropolitan Assessment Treatment Center, or MATS.
Before I checked in, October 24th, I was sleeping under the cold bridge. And for me, that was a lonely feeling.
For the first time in a long time, Josh is feeling confident about breaking out of the cycle he's been living.
I've acquired a sense of hope through God and through this program, and all I can do is keep pushing forward.
In 2014, voters in Bernalillo County overwhelmingly approved the behavioral health tax that stands to collect about $17 million a year.
The Behavioral Health Initiative is about creating a network of services that support those in our community who have a behavioral health condition. So regardless of where they are in terms of their diagnosis, they need support, resources, and health care throughout their journey.
We believe that this is a very important initiative because it really speaks to what we need to be doing in the community to address both mental health issues, which affect criminal behavior, it affects how often we're going in and out of emergency rooms, it affects poverty, it touches everything that we do.
Whoops, I don't have it on. It takes better pictures if you turn it on. I have bipolar disorder, which means I have bipolar 2, so I have hypomania and serious depression.
Susan Page was diagnosed with depression 29 years ago following the sudden death of her infant son.
I was already very depressed. He was barely 4 months old, and I just was not doing well at all. My mother was a very critical person. She had been essentially raised by wolves and did not know how to be a loving parent. And my sisters and I are all pretty screwed up as a result. My father was an alcoholic, and so I did not get good parenting growing up.
Despite everything Susan's dealt with, she's resilient. As a retired district attorney, wife, and mother, she stays active. She is also part of the Behavioral Health Initiative, serving on a subcommittee. And when she isn't generously donating her time to causes close to her heart, you can find her snapping photographs, taking art lessons, meeting with friends, and writing poetry.
It's called Character from California Boat Names. I am an instigator. I grab life with gusto, sow seeds of gratitude. And that was the 3 boat names: instigator, gusto, and gratitude.
We have started programs to prevent adverse childhood experiences that lead to behavioral health issues in adulthood.
Things like divorce in your family, abuse, a family member going to jail or leaving for incarceration for a long period of time. When you have that community action at the very beginning, it's very important to keep that motivation going by making sure that you have the community participate in the services that need to be developed.
Like services offered by PB&J Family Services, where they're under contract with the Behavioral Health Initiative to reduce trauma through a program called ACEs.
I actually used to go to Peanut Butter and Jelly when I was a kid. So when I had the option to do parenting classes there and get her involved in there, I took that option right away because I love that place.
Jasmine grew up in a household where both her parents struggled with drug abuse.
My mom and dad were both in and out of jail. We actually got involved with the program because my grandma didn't drive. My grandma adopted us and she didn't drive. So they would pick us up and take us to the jail to go see our mom on family day.
2 little monkeys swinging from a tree. The exact type of situation the BHI program ACES is now helping families and children work through, like Jasmine, who also fell into the cycle of addiction.
I was trying to get clean by myself, and she got into my purse and got a hold of a Suboxone. So they ended up taking her away from me, and I lost everything when I lost her.
But today, Jasmine and her daughter Audrina are together and are both benefiting from these supportive services through PB&J.
Felicia is now my counselor. She did so much just to get me back on my feet.
Jasmine looks forward to regular meetings with Felicia, whether it's parenting classes or weekend outings.
They become family. You grow relationships with them and you become family with them, and they're just amazing people.
3 different life stories, all overlapping with the Behavioral Health Initiative and making our community a better, safer, healthier place to live.
Our goal is to create a system in our community where no one falls through the cracks and everyone who needs support gets it.
To date, 14 programs have been created, from housing to crisis services. Thousands of people are now receiving support and treatment through Bernalillo County's BHI.
We're changing lives.
We're changing lives.
We're changing lives.
We're changing lives.
So many thanks to the people sitting behind me, Bree, Augusta, and Paul, who made this happen. This is better music than what I
Get ready for a color test.
It's my cue to sit down and stop it. But we anticipate having a few more of these videos really emphasizing the 4 subcommittees and the work that we're doing. And Commissioner Stebbins was able to actually present this at the Economic Forum last month. And I think it kind of tells the story in a way that we don't explain it very well, at least I don't. So when you have a video like that, I think it's very touching, and a lot of people have asked for copies of it. It will be placed on our website and be used in more presentations. So with that, do you have any questions?
I just have a comment. I think it's well presented, and it also kind of touches in, what we've all up here been saying is that, behavioral health isn't just a one-size-fits all, that there's so many different pieces to the puzzle to solve, what we're looking at, and that, with $17 million, you got to really spread it across this puzzle to make it work and to show the community that, you've at least have some specifics that you're doing is a great way to let people know what we're doing with taxpayer money. But, again, it's a huge puzzle, and I think it touches on that, and I think it makes people aware of that's a part of the underlying point that you're making, that, and so it works well for me, and I think it was done really well, and I thank everybody who was involved. You did an excellent job on that, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Okay, thank you so much, Katrina. So we'll go to item 7D, Community Services.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Vince Murphy, Deputy County Manager for Community Services. I was asked by Commissioner O'Malley, at the last meeting you had 6 speakers from the public and 5 spoke about the use of chemicals, deadly chemicals, in parks and open space. The day before that meeting, the commissioner had sent me an email because she had been contacted by several citizens around the use of glyphosate. And I had contacted our land folks who take care of both the parks and open space and asked them to respond to the commissioner. The very next day at the commission meeting, we had these 5 speakers. Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I'm getting a little confused.
Commissioner O'Malley.
So I think I'm looking at the agenda, and it looks like the next is a presentation by the Cooperative Extension Service?
Oh, I
And
jumped
then-
ahead of myself.
Yeah, and so, yeah, then it's the resolution, that's why I was like.
Yeah, Community Service, Bernalillo County Cooperative
yeah,
Extension
the
Services presentation.
I apologize.
It's
So
That's okay.
It was 2 years ago that Commissioner Hart Stebbins asked that we set a regular discussion with the Extension Service. So in the fall and in the spring of each year, we've asked the Extension Service to come and present what they've been doing. So this is the second year we're doing that, and I'll introduce Cindy Davies. Cindy?
Thank you.
Hello. Tonight I brought with me an outstanding young woman who works for me in the Bernalillo County Extension Office. She is the urban 4-H agent, and that is different than traditional 4-H, which many of you are aware of 4-H. But Brittany has done amazing work within the schools in Albuquerque and has some really powerful statistics about how bringing 4-H into the schools is helping in the issues of absenteeism and test scores and a whole lot of different things. So it's kind of an innovative approach to a long-term problem. And so I'm going to let Brittany share from there.
Well, good evening. My name is Brittany Sontag. As Cindy mentioned, I am the urban 4-H agent for the Bernalillo County Cooperative Extension Service. My job is a little different, as she mentioned, than our traditional agents. My job is really to bring 4-H to kids who really could not get involved in 4-H otherwise. And so one of the things we're doing is the 4-H in-school clubs. We started this about 3 years ago with Collette Park Elementary, which is a school that's on Moon between Manal and Indian School. So this school, we got together with the principal and we ended up writing a $50,000 grant that we received from the APS Goal Foundation. We had a couple of different goals with that grant, and some of those were to increase our reading scores for that school, to decrease behavioral issues, and to increase attendance in the school. And so what we did was we took the last Friday of the last hour of every Friday, and they actually broke into their 4-H clubs. Our kinder, first, and second grade students, they all stayed within their grade level, and so each grade level picked a project, whether it was our rocketry project or our sewing project. Each one of those grades picked one. Now, our third, fourth, and fifth grade students, they actually got to break out based upon their interest. So if they were interested in doing the rabbit project, they were actually commingling with all the other third, fourth, and fifth graders that were interested in the rabbit project. And so we did a variety of different projects. We did clay projects, gardening, pets projects. There were some STEM projects around robotics, rocketry, first aid. Pretty much anything the kids were interested in, that's what they were able to do. And then we also took our curriculum and we put it during the school day. So our curriculum from the National 4-H is linked to Common Core. And so the teachers were able to actually use some of the activities that were in the 4-H curriculum to replace traditional activities that they were doing. And what they were finding is that the kids became passionate about coming to school. Their chronic absenteeism at the school in 1 year went down from 23% to 7%. Behavioral issues were at almost nothing. The principal said in January of that first year, from January to the end of that school year, she did not end up suspending a single kid, which was very uncommon for her because the kids, they actually have to come to school in order to participate into the 4-H Friday. That's kind of the carrot. So if they were absent, if they didn't do their homework, they weren't able to participate in the 4-H Friday. They actually used that hour to catch up. And so it started to motivate these kids to actually do their schoolwork, to show up, be there, and to be able to participate in their programs. She said it's also changed the culture of the school as well. So now the kids, they're starting to see all the teachers with respect instead of just their specific teacher, especially those third, fourth, and fifth graders, because they're engaging with more teachers than just their traditional teacher. She said that there's actually laughter in her hallways and that kids are excited and they want to be there. And then just one other big thing is the addition of adding animals to the school has been a huge success. She said that's been one of the reasons why she attributes the behavioral issues as going down as they did, because the kids when they're having a problem, they actually go and they seek out the rabbit and they just sit there and hold the rabbit and they take that time to de-stress. And so it allows the kids a time just to have a moment to collect themselves and then to really redirect their behavior. Now, going back to our reading scores, one of the things we've implemented is the importance of reading to animals. So we hatch out chickens, and so throughout my program, I've actually hatched chickens in 63 schools last year, reaching about 1,600 of the Bernalillo County youth. And what we do is we take 30 days, we start with fertile eggs, and we actually hatch them in the classroom, and they learn the entire process from the egg to the chick. Well, when those chickens hatch, it is super important that we read to them, because these baby chicks, they're just like baby humans. They need to be read to. So now kids are fighting each other over the right to get to read to these baby chicks. I've had teachers come up to me and say that they've had students who refuse to read out loud who are first to class because they want to read to the chicks. And so just implementing some different 4-H programs have really shown some success. And that was just kind of in our first year. We're starting on year 3, and we've got 7 that are signed up this year. We've got 2 other schools that we're working with, elementary, middle, and high school. And one of our goals really is to kind of make this a funnel, if you will. So they'll get 4-H from elementary all the way through high school and really begin to develop a mastery of those skills. Do we have any questions?
Commissioner Hart-Stevens.
Thank you so much. What a delight it is to have you here and hear about what you're doing and the outcomes that you're seeing at the schools you're visiting. How does a school qualify to become part of this program?
Any school can join it. They just need to let me know, and I will work with them. So for those other schools that we've moved towards, we've worked to do it without those funds. You know, having those funds initially was really, really helpful, but we're trying to just be really resourceful. And in our office, we have sewing machines, we have leather, we have a variety of different products that we can loan out to schools. And that's actually one of the things that I'm moving towards in the next couple of years, is to develop curriculum kits that the different teachers in schools can sign out that have all the supplies. Because I know, buying a sewing machine's expensive for those schools, and they won't be able to do it without that. So if we can have it in the office, they can actually check it out through us.
That's good to know. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Extension Service is in my district, and it's in a sort of an unusual place by the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, sort of set in the back there. But it's very well used. There's a lot of programs there, from teaching moms to cook, single moms to cook, to helping. Cindy has really done a great deal of outreach. And I really want to commend you, Cindy, and of course Brittany, for really, I think, looking at the relevancy of these programs today. A lot of times we'll have these programs in place. 4-H is over 100 years old, I think, maybe?
That's correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we sort of felt it's been stagnant in some ways. This is our program. 4-H would have a program, and then kids either participated or they didn't. But you going out to reach kids where they are, right, and what they're interested in, I think is really important. I think that makes all the difference. And so when you say an urban 4-H, that's addressing the kids within the county, because most kids, we're less of an agricultural community. When children especially, were involved in raising young animals. I think they're more interested in raising chickens and maybe rabbits. But just being relevant in today's society, I think that's very important, and I think that's where you get the support that you need. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And of course, we're very supportive of our Extension Service. Thank you.
Yeah, and as I sat on the school board for 4 years, we know that it takes a community in schools that we can relieve some of the pressure that we have on our underpaid teachers, and you should know, as you do, the workload that they already address, and with the schools being as crowded as they are, especially in my district, every program makes a difference and it matters, and it's really up to a community to change education. It's not just up to one entity to change education, but it's as a whole to change education. So thank you so much for the job that you do, and I'm sure you get plenty of reward by looking in those children's eyes and being able to come up and give us statistics that you did this evening. I'm sure that makes you feel good and makes you sleep at night, because it's a great thing. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I say that I easily have the best job in the world. I get to teach kids about agriculture. What could be better than that?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, now we will go to public comment. I'll repeat the public comment. You will have 2 minutes to speak, and you will be given 30 seconds notice to wrap up your comments, and a final notice when your time is up. When your name is called, please make your way down to the podium and state your name for the record before you begin your comments.
We have 9 signed up this evening. First is Andres Mata, Don Schrader, E. Ward.
Good evening, men and women of the Commission. My name is Andres Benito Mata. I'm a resident of the Barelas neighborhood. I believe my family's been here in Albuquerque, New Mexico for over 100 years as of this year. And first of all, speaking on this behavioral health initiative, I believe I have a unique perspective on it. To be very clear, I am a registered sex offender and I'm a convicted felon. And I just want to take this time to each and every one of you. From the bottom of my heart, I express remorse for my actions. I'm extremely, extremely sorry for what I've done, and I look forward to paying it forward the best way I know how, which is participating in these conversations. One of the unfortunate experiences I've had through the behavioral health problems that I've suffered as a survivor of post-traumatic stress disorder, abuse as a child, and such of the like, I've been denied services at places because of my record. And disproportionately, sex offenders and those who have abused children are people that account for a lot of trauma, and I believe that those individuals should not be given special attention, but should be still given the opportunity to receive services, just like anyone else, despite with their record. So I want to bring that up to the county's attention, that I believe that's a very important thing. The other thing I wanted to discuss is also psychiatric providers for the working class. For me, myself, I do have Medicaid, but I'm not homeless. So therefore, when I went to my primary care provider and I asked them to help me get psychiatric medication, I was put on multiple waiting lists for up to 9 months. And I believe that is way too long of a waiting list for anyone to receive psychiatric medication who has a job. There's only so much that I can do, and I accept the consequences of my actions. So if at least bringing this to light, that there needs to be more psychiatric providers to the working class here in this county. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Don Schrader. I enjoy living simply, and I want to die simply, if I die tomorrow or 30 years from now. I reject cremation. Cremation of one body requires the energy it takes to drive a car thousands of miles. I reject embalming. Embalming is expensive and unnecessary use of poison chemicals. This summer, I bought a plot at San Jose de Armijo Cemetery on Arenal, west of Coors, the only real estate I have bought in my life. San Jose de Armijo is a beautiful dirt cemetery, much cheaper than large grass cemeteries here. Why waste water in this desert to grow grass in cemeteries? No vault, no liner required at San Jose de Armijo. I made my coffin this summer out of half-inch plywood. I spent about $60. Why waste thousands of dollars on a luxury box for my dead body and a fancy funeral when millions of living children worldwide suffer hunger and cold with no home. I want no mortuary to be involved. I very much want to be reunited with all my loved ones in a better world beyond death, but I strongly doubt that happens. Wanting something deeply does not make it so. Come to the Marigold Parade for El Dia de los Muertos, Sunday, November 4th, 2 p.m. Isleta Southwest.
Thank you.
E. Ward, Jessica Holt, Peggy Norton.
M. Ward. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I speak in support of item 11A, the glyphosate resolution. I think it's called the Human Welfare. I'm not exactly sure of the title, but thanks to Commissioners O'Malley and Hart-Stebbins for sponsoring this resolution. At the last meeting, we presented approximately 500 signatures on a petition calling for the end of the use of glyphosate in public zones in Bernalillo County. I acknowledge Mr. Stephen Berczynski for getting the ball rolling on the petition effort. The proposed resolution is a good first step in reducing the level of toxicants in our local environment. I request that as part of the integrated management program, that the elements of the plan be posted on a dedicated webpage on the bernco.gov website. Please vote for the motion described in 11A. Thank you for your consideration on that item. And in my remaining time, I do want to ask the Commission to explain how the issues and concerns that were raised by Santolina would not be present in the upper petroglyph PID that's on the agenda. Thanks, if we could get some more information on that. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Jessica Holt, and I'm also in support of the resolution Item 11A because I am concerned about chemical compounds such as glyphosate being sprayed in public spaces around the city and in the outskirt area. And I'm concerned about the public safety issues and public health of our citizens and tax dollars being used to spray such a chemical on public spaces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Norton, Carlos Prophet, Charles Powell.
Good evening, Chair Quezada, Commissioners. My name is Peggy Norton, and I am speaking on behalf of the North Valley Coalition. I'm president there. Our boundaries go from I-40 up to the Bernalillo County line and from the river to I-25. I'm also speaking for the Bosque Action Team, which was a group formed to protect the Bosque. At many of our meetings, concerns have been expressed about the wide use and acceptance of glyphosate and other toxic chemicals. So we are pleased to see our concerns come into the headlights. Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley and Stebbins, for introducing Resolution AR 2018, committing the county to minimize the use of glyphosate, and we encourage commissioners to support this resolution. Monsanto was just ordered to pay $289 million when a jury determined that Roundup caused cancer. It is prudent for fiscal responsibility and worker citizen safety to find alternatives. It presents the county as a role model and provides information so that citizens think twice before grabbing Roundup at a store entrance. This action can initiate discussion with the city and MRGCD to consider following what the county is doing. Particularly, there is an item on the label of Roundup. It's not to be used in or near fresh water to protect amphibians or other wildlife. And that would include parks that use irrigation. This is an important issue in the valley and throughout parks that do use the irrigation. The city is also an urban bird treaty city, conserving birds and habitat. We're a bee-friendly city, which is supposed to help provide for bees. And recent research out of UT Austin shows that Roundup destroys specialized gut bacteria in bees, making them susceptible to infection and death. Thank you for supporting this resolution.
Thank you.
Carlos Prophet, Charles Powell, Edgar Salinas.
Did I jump? Carlos Prophet, Pajarito Grant. About a month ago, 9 o'clock in the morning, I called in an abandoned vehicle. About 11 o'clock, community service aide showed up. Should have seen the vehicle, took a wrong turn, turned south instead of going west. It's the easy to describe Arroyo where they execute and burn people just up the hill from there, half a mile. Spent about an hour fiddling around with communications, trying to get this person redirected. Went and ate my dinner. After that, the circus starts, and there were probably, I don't know, 50 or 100 vehicles out there that day, 10:30 when they went home with the wrecker, 13 law enforcement vehicles, no media. Anyway, another dead person, number 5 for that location. The dispatchers in the Bernalillo County, the sheriff's office, just have no idea how to get around. I don't know why they send these young people out there without a weapon, with no knowledge of where they are, how to navigate, how to get around. It's just a recipe for more disaster. Anyway, under the stewardship of Bernalillo County, the Cáceres with their cattle and their vehicles have turned the place back into a dust bowl. Can't get the livestock people to do much about it. The New Mexico Livestock Board, they're not on it. It's an environmental disaster, as with the Monsanto glyphosate.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Edgar Salinas. I am a proud immigrant, working father, and a member with El Centro de Igualdad en Derechos, and also a part of the Workers' Committee. Today we're here in support of the Commission approving the 20-cent raise on Albuquerque workers. And the reason we're here is because as Albuquerque resident, I've seen the impact the 20 cents raise can have on our community. It benefits not only the quality life of low-wage workers, but it also benefits our local economy by people having a little more money to spend, and that means a little more taxes, right? El Centro membership is based on 4,600 members, and we have seen the impact the good and bad policies have on our low-wage workers. That is why we're here in support of cost of living adjustment, and it is something positive for our community. And at the same time, it is an effort to improve the financial stability of our families. However, I know this is still not enough, but it's a good step on the right direction, and it's also motivation to keep working to raise the minimum wage to a better living conditions and also wages for our community. We really deeply thank you guys for this. This means a lot for low-wage workers, because 20 cents, 10 cents, $1, $2, whatever the people that doesn't have anything can get, it's a lot. That means a lot for them, and we thank you guys.
Thank you.
Manuel Saenz and Richard Barish.
Hi, good evening. President Quesada and members of the Commission. My name is Manuel Saenz. I live and work a carpenter in Albuquerque, and I'm a proud member of El Centro de Igualdad y Derechos. I'm here in support of the cost of living adjustment. This place has been haunting me since 2004. Among the reasons I'm proud to call Albuquerque home is the recognition of immigrants' contribution to the economic, social, and cultural life of our city and county. Today, we had the opportunity to support low-wage workers and our families. We comprise a community of workers, families, students, small business owners, and taxpayers. Immigrant workers take care of our elderly and children, build, roof our homes and buildings, pick the chili that we are so proud of, and work in the service industry. We are all one Bernalillo County. Although we must aim higher to bring low-wage workers and their families out of poverty, the additional approximately $416 a year for full-time workers is a step in the right direction. This additional income will help our communities pay rent, car payments, food, gas, and utilities. This is money that we are spending in the local economy. We look forward to working with the Commission in the future to work together to help our communities thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Quezada, Commission members, my name is Richard Barish. I am here today on behalf of the Sierra Club. And I wanted to speak in support of the resolution that was introduced by Commissioner O'Malley and Commissioner Hart-Stebbins to discourage the use of glyphosates in our parks and open space. There's a lot of evidence that these are very toxic chemicals. They can have very negative effects on human health and on the health of the animals and the environment. We should not be spraying them in places where people can come into contact with them, where they've been sprayed, and also where they get washed into the river and washed into our waterways and be consumed by animals. So I would urge everybody on this commission to please vote in favor of that resolution. It's a very common sense resolution given the state of our knowledge of glyphosates at this point. And again, I urge you to please vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Okay, that concludes public comment. Thank you all so much for showing up and taking time out of your busy days to come here. We will now move to item 8, approval of minutes. I move to approve the October 9th, 2018 administrative meeting minutes. Do I have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We'll move to item 9, approval of the consent agenda. I move for approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a second? I have a second. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please provide ordinance numbers for item 9A?
Yes, sir. 9A is ordinance 2018-29.
29. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Passes. We'll move on to item 10, adoption of ordinance and amendment to the county code. Item A, economic development. Do we have a presentation first on this? Please.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you
so much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, the Economic Development Staff recommends the adoption of an ordinance authorizing a local economic development agreement, LEDA, with Resilient Solutions 21, LLC, as well as approval of the financial resolution appropriating the budget in the amount of $805,000 for the Economic Development Department. Resilient Solutions 21 LLC was founded in 2015. The company's line of business includes providing business consulting services and contract RFE basis. The $800,000 state LEDA grant, LEDA award would fund the construction, engineering, architectural, IT, and permanent design expenses for RS21's expanded office. RS21, if you would, is currently located in downtown Albuquerque at the historic Occidental Building at 301 Gold Avenue Southwest, 2nd floor. They provide health, dental, vision insurance offered at a 50-50 employer split, a 401k plan with an option of profit sharing, company-wide bonuses, structured based on net profit margins and gross revenue, as well as PTO. The county would be acting as the fiscal agent on behalf of the state of New Mexico. There are 50 permanent jobs and 24 construction jobs. I stand for any questions, and we do have representatives from RS21 here.
Okay.
If you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay, and can I have, Commissioner, he moved, okay, we moved in a second, has happened. Can I have an ordinance number and an FR number, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, the ordinance number is 2018-30. Number 2 is FR 2018-75, sorry.
FR 75?
Yes, sir.
For the record, we don't have anybody signed up for public hearing.
Okay, so no public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We'll move to item 10B, Economic Development, Industrial Revenue Bond for the Ben E. Keith Company.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of the ordinance authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond IRB application on behalf of Ben E. Keith Company in the amount of $80 million. The Ben E. Keith Company ordinance approves the issuance of bonds as well as bond documents, indentured lease agreements, bond purchase agreements. Ben E. Keith Company was founded in 1906, operates a broadline food service and beverage distribution business, expansion of its New Mexico regional headquarters by using bond proceeds for construction, equipment purchase, and land. Ben E. Keith provides a all full-time employees with medical, dental, vision insurance, lifelong and short-term disability programs, a 401k retirement plan, 100% company-funded profit-sharing plan, educational assistance, mostly for college and graduate programs. It'll be located on the southeast corner of I-40 and, the southeast corner of I-40 and Unser Boulevard Northwest. The $80 million IRB will be a 30-year term, 48% exemption rate, and of 20,568.11 annual exemption amount. I stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Move approval.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can I have an ordinance number?
Yes, sir. 2018-31.
31. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion
For the
passes.
record, there was nobody signed up for public hearing on this
I
item.
forgot. Yeah, no,
Sorry.
sorry about that. I didn't.
Juliana.
I'm having one of those days. We'll go to item 11, adoption of resolution. So this is the health and welfare for county residents. Let me just get a resolution number first.
Number A, sir, is AR 2018-76. Number B is 2018-77.
Okay. And so we will have some. Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Vince Murphy, Deputy County Manager. I guess I got excited, so I apologize.
You did. That's okay.
So, and maybe part of my excitement is really this effort has been driven by constituents. Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner O'Malley have talked to us before about concerns that were being brought to them from constituents, and we heard about 5 last week, and we heard some tonight, supporting the idea that we take a look at the use of glyphosate and minimize and hopefully potentially just not use that chemical. I was contacted by Commissioner O'Malley the day before last week's meeting, and we had already started work with our lands folks to put together a working group, and we'll include some of the people who have spoken to the commission to really take a look at what's a comprehensive plan look like, and we need to look short term, what are the things we could do now to begin to stop the use of that chemical, but also in the long run as we purchase new properties and have the need to have weed control, have in place a long-term approach. So, I think it's exciting to have a constituent-driven initiative, and we're committed to address the issues.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank you for responding very quickly. I know you reached out to the manager, the one who manages the parks in terms of maintenance, and I was really kind of surprised that he pretty quickly came up with, you know what, we could really look at this, and I think we could do something. So he talked about an integrated management plan. It has to do with timing, when weeds are, just starting, if you address them early on. What we don't know really in terms of labor and costs of other applications would be, we don't know those at this time, but I'd say if you can have organic farming, we should be able to do something like this. I mean, after all, that's a That's a profit-driven industry, and it's certainly what we can do to minimize, not only, and I can pronounce that correct, what did you say, glyphosate? Glyphosate? I don't know.
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate? No. Just the Roundup, that's really what it is.
Roundup is what I've been saying,
But,
Commissioner.
yeah, I know. But I mean, because that chemical is in a lot of other brands, so just say Roundup uses it, or Roundup, but really we're talking about other toxic chemicals, and someone mentioned the, well, actually Peggy did with the North Valley, she mentioned the bees and how it affects all these systems that we rely on really for food and also in terms of our health and our well-being. We can't separate these things. We're in an ecosystem where we're all depending on one another. So I think it's a positive thing, and I'm excited about that. And someone did mention, I think it was Dr. Ward who said, I don't know if she's still here, that we need to kind of get the community involved, and so that they know what we're doing, and then maybe they have some good suggestions as well. And so we're looking maybe putting together a committee or something like that so that we can have something to.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner O'Malley, our intent is to form a working group.
Okay.
And we could report back to the commission on a regular basis as to the progress and the recommendations being made. I think we really do need to keep this as a constituent-driven initiative.
Do you want to add anything?
Commissioner Hart Stebbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really want to thank Commissioner O'Malley for bringing this forward. This has been something I've heard from my constituents' concerns about this, and so thank you very much for this resolution. As you put together this working group, is there the possibility that it could also look at the pesticides that the county uses? Because I think many of us have been reading reports of the catastrophic decline in the insect population here in the United States and around the world, and I think it's important that we not contribute to that problem, but I know we have a responsibility to keep properties weed-free and pest-free, but if there's some way that the county can be selective about what it uses, I think that would also be beneficial, again, being environmentally responsible about the pesticides, not just the herbicides. So if you could include that, that would be great.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Stebbins will include it.
It's in the resolution.
Commissioner Talbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the short term, I mean, what prohibits us from just stop using it? Like, why don't we just stop using it? Like, people don't buy Roundup if they know they think they're going to get cancer. Why wouldn't we just, whatever, I can't pronounce it, just stop using it and buy something eco-friendly?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, the first response from our lands people was that, and they immediately started looking at, so what are the options? So they've identified some options, so we're taking a look at what's that take. Commissioner O'Malley made it clear to me around, as we look to cost, we got to look to also the effect on people and animals and so on as a part of what the costs are. So some of the, but the first response from our lands folks is we can stop it. We start the spray season in March, so we have between now and then to figure out how to address it. The other option is just having people who can pull the weeds. That's also a very expensive option, and we just don't have enough staff for the acreage that we're responsible for.
And a point to Commissioner Hart Stebbins around pesticides. I mean, the person I have come spray my house uses pet-friendly and eco-friendly pesticides all the time, and I don't have any spiders or ants or anything, so I know it's available commercially all over the place, so I'm sure the same thing is with Spectracide as well, so thanks.
So I'm going to be honest here. You know, I moved into a house that had nothing but a rock front yard because we xeriscape everything, and it's a pretty difficult job to pull weeds out of the rocks. And so I was at Home Depot, and I grabbed a thing of Roundup and showed it to my home. And my wife said if I sprayed one drop of that she was going to kick me out. And so she had already done the research on that. And so A thing that I would like to mention now is that I really agree with not using it because I want to, one, stay married, and two, I have a problem now. So now I have this container full of Roundup, and I haven't thrown it in the trash, and I've been there over five years at the home that we're at, and I still just have it sitting there because I'm afraid to throw it in the trash, because if what she says is right, and I put that at the landfill and it somehow finds its way into our water system, I would feel very bad about that. Is there something else that we could also put in place for people who bought it without really knowing or thinking about it and don't use it and doesn't know now where to dispose of it? Because I'd like to find a place to get that out of my garage and take it somewhere where we could safely and properly dispose of it. So if you could find that out also, Mr. Murphy, and what we're going to do with probably a lot more than a small container of it, I'd like to know where that's going and how we're going to get rid of it. That's just the kind of the point I'm making. And when you do, I'm going to bring mine to take so you can take it too.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we'll make that the first, you'll be the first one. I do know that the city has facilities around chemical disposal, so we can contact them and get information.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Commissioner Talbert makes a good point. When we had that response right away from management that said, you know, I think we can do this, basically we said, well, let's put something in place right away to sort of codify that and to, you know, push that along. But to Commissioner Talbert's point, and he may want to do this, we can make that decision to say we're not going to use glyphosate anymore as part of our management. There's other, as he mentioned, there are other, there's other ways to manage weeds, and we'll have to look at that, but we could make that statement if you wanted to make that, I would support that.
Amendment?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. I think if, you know, we're going down this path, we might as well stop it as quick as we can, so I would stop using it immediately. The good news is it's a non-weed season right now, even though we got some rain today, but we got till March to figure that out. But then to Commissioner Hart-Stebbins' point around the whole pesticide component, if we're using our own people for pesticides, I think we should go down the eco-friendly, friendly route as well, simply because, I mean, the effect on animals and humans is the same on both fronts, pesticide or spectricide. So I would add
Can we make
simply
that
if
change?
possible.
Can someone look at that resolution or is it enough for us to say that that we are looking at stopping the use of glyphosate and the chemicals for pests that are considered toxic to humans? And
Mr. Chair,
can that be
Commissioner
just-
O'Malley, we can do that, and we can bring it back to the next meeting.
So do you want to just wait and table this for now and have it properly state all the things? As long as we know that, as long as the community as a whole knows right now, as of today, we are not going to use that spray because we're actually, he's right, it's off-season to be using that spray. And they can feel comfortable that by the next meeting that we will have all our ducks in a row on this resolution. Can we do that?
You have my
Do I have a motion to?
Yeah, is that, okay, sure.
So it's yours. Do you all want to do that?
Right, so we can move to defer.
Yeah.
Put that language in there with the understanding that was stated by the chair.
All right. So I have a motion to defer, or do you want to go through the motion first?
Motion to defer.
Motion to defer, so we just need a motioner and a seconder.
Okay, so I have a motion to defer. I got a second to defer item 11A till the next meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? So we'll defer that. We'll now, thank you.
And I'm sorry, if you could repeat who motioned and who seconded that?
It was motioned by Commissioner O'Malley, second by Commissioner Talbert. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
We will move to Economic Development, Upper Petroglyphs Public Improvement District 1 and 4 through 11. Madam Clerk, can we please have a resolution number?
AR 2018-76. Thank you.
So you're moving that resolution number From 76 to the other, because we deferred that? Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you. Sarcheletta, do you have a map or a location?
Yeah, we're actually trying to get that up
Okay.
right now. It's not, no, it's on, the light's on. There we go. Sorry about that. Trying to best laid plans, right? Mr. Chairman, the members of the members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of the administrative resolution authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to form the Upper Petroglyphs Public Improvement District. County Ordinance 2007-17 supplements the Public Improvement District Act and establishes the policy guidelines and application procedures for the formation of the Public Improvement District in the county. Western Albuquerque Land Holdings, LLC, submitted a petition and application for formation of the Upper Petroglyphs Public Improvement District 1 and 4 through 11, and has worked with the county staff through the process described in the policy guidelines. The Bernalillo County Commission is now presented with the formation resolution. The formation resolution approves the application and petition and orders the formation of the Upper Petroglyphs Public Improvement District 1 and 4 through 11 as a political subdivision of the state, separate and apart from the county. The formation resolution also, among other things, improves certain financial parameters, including the maximum amount of special levy to be imposed on the land within the public improvement district, and the maximum aggregate principal amount of bonds authorized to be issued by the public improvement district, and approves certain application documents, including petition, the general plan, the feasibility study, and the infrastructure development and acquisition agreement. The petition requests that the county form a public improvement district. The general plan identifies the boundaries of the district and the types of locations, costs, and ownerships of the public infrastructure. The feasibility study includes a description of the public improvements, a market absorption study, a proposed plan of finance, among other things, and the infrastructure development acquisition agreement relates to the development of the land within the district and approval, within the district, the approval, acceptance, and conveyance process, and the financing of the public improvement in the district. County staff recommends that the Commission, 1, approve Administrative Resolution 2018-76, approving the application and the petition of Western Albuquerque Land Holding, LLC, for formation of the Upper Petroglyph Public Improvement District 1 and 4 through 11, pursuant to the Public Improvement District Act and Bernalillo County Ordinance 2007-17, and approval of the Master PID Infrastructure Development and Acquisition Agreement. I stand for any questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you. Sarcheletta, I don't think the public can necessarily see this. It's kind of upside down.
Oh,
well, it is upside down. What am I saying?
Upside down. There we go.
That's along, what's the main?
So this road, sorry, actually, if I can you hear me now?
Right, yes.
Okay, so this is I-40 here.
Okay.
And this is a Trisco Vista.
Okay.
So that gives you some boundaries. Tempur-Pedic is approximately right here, or actually that's Tempur-Pedic, and Shamrock Foods is right there, just to give you a couple of physical boundaries. My understanding, and they are still working with the planning department, and Enrico, you can, Mr. Garrotti can probably speak to this a little bit better than I can, but my understanding is in this area here, this will be housing, there will be a commercial space in this area, as well as in this particular location here, where you see the number 7, is where the property will be put up for a joint fire and sheriff's station.
So let's see if, I just want to get this straight. Recently, we amended the plan, I know Enrico's here. Was this the plan that we amended to address the issue of to create more opportunities for commercial development? Okay.
And that would be in this
that area
here,
there?
correct?
Okay. So the PID is really for a residential area, residential areas?
residential and whatever is not built out in this area that's already zoned.
So that we're clear on the PID. PID is sort of a self-financing, basically the fees are within a certain area, what they call this political subdivision. They're the ones that pay for infrastructure?
Correct. Members have to opt in to do it, and after a certain portion, there'll have to be an electorate that makes a decision on that. So
they agree to be taxed or
yes,
fees?
It will be over and above the county's portion, or the fees that are already in place in that area.
Okay. So I'm trying to remember, is this also a TID?
This is part of the larger Santolina TID.
Okay, so how does a PID and a TID, how does that interact?
I'm sorry.
It's not Santolina.
It's not Santolina, I
Santolina's on the other
apologize. This
side.
is a separate, we'll have the lawyers come and talk to you about the specifics of that. How's that? So.
Just curious.
Do you want to, let me introduce Jill Sweeney and Justin Horowitz.
Mr. Chair, Member O'Malley, yes, there is some overlap between these proposed public improvement districts and the DevCo tax increment districts 1 through 9.
So when you say overlap, you are talking about actually area overlap?
Yes.
Okay, so what would that be? I mean,
Yeah.
where is that?
Do you have a map?
It's right here.
Do you have another map?
Can you talk about that?
Sure.
Just here, you can use this one.
Chairman, members of the commission, Justin Horowitz with the Rhodey firm. We're counsel to the petitioner in the matter before you. So the DevCo, the boundaries of the PID overlay the DevCo tax increment district. So there isn't any portion of the PID that isn't overlaying the tax increment district, but there are a small portion, you have a map there, right here, which would be DevCo districts 2 and 3 are outside the boundaries of the PID districts.
So my understanding of tax increment district is to capture a certain amount of the increment, the tax increment, when something gets developed out, to pay for infrastructure. So then you're putting a PID on top of that, and that's to pay for infrastructure. So are you getting infrastructure from the increment, which is the county, and also the folks who are buying houses there? Is that the way this works?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Malley, the Public Improvement District utilizes, as you said, a special levy, which is an additional levy or tax on property owners within the boundaries of the district. The focus of that levy is going to be more on local, first priority on local public infrastructure improvements with the tax increment district revenues focusing, to the extent they're available, on sort of off-site and regional to the, improvements to the extent they are installed.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner O'Malley, I think at a high level, the PID, where the homeowners are paying a levy to support the in-tract infrastructure, whereas the TID, as a general rule, finances trunk.
Okay. So this is, just to be clear, this has already been planned. At what stage are you in other than this, in terms of close to build out?
Put it in perspective, the first district expects to start moving dirt within, I think, the next 2 years, with the first bond issuance in late 2021 is projected.
Okay. And then, so this is again, with a PID, because it's a separate political subdivision, you can bond, you can sell bonds for a district.
Yes.
Right. And then the folks who live in that district, they're the ones who are responsible, or that board, responsible for paying back the bond.
Yes, and the levies that are paid by the homeowners creates the revenue stream to pay the debt service on the bonds for the infrastructure. The infrastructure then is owned ultimately by the county's public infrastructure, but is financed with the levy.
Okay. So it's my understanding that the planning department doesn't have any issues with this or any concerns. It just, no. You reviewed it. Okay, you want to come on up? So-
Good evening, Chairman Quesada, members of the Board of County Commissioners. So as a planning document and a sector plan, this has been submitted to us, and you are correct. It was approved almost 2 years ago, I believe, to allow for more primary employment, light commercial and industrial uses on the western section of the area. This is where it stands today. This current PID and TID application was submitted to us, and the staff reviewed it for completeness with regards to platting, property boundaries, and consistency with the other documents we have in place. We are looking at the possibility of them making some adjustments to that. And if they do that, that will have to come back before the Board of County Commissioners, but we haven't received any of that material yet. But to date, this is consistent, and staff, not just from my department, but also from Public Works and others, has reviewed it for consistency with that adopted plan.
Just so to understand, the liability is not with the county, it's with the PID, but the county, of course, has to approve, I assume, the infrastructure plans. Do we take on the responsibility of maintenance for the roads in the interior as well, at the PIDs?
Do you want to? Yes. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner O'Malley, yes, the infrastructure that will ultimately be public infrastructure that will be operated and maintained by the city or the state or a MAFCA, the appropriate entity, and the petitioner, along with economic development staff, has worked with Mr. Paul and his group on the master development and acquisition agreement in order to make sure that the county is aware of both the infrastructure that has been proposed as well as the process that would be in place to inspect and accept and transfer those pieces of in-tract infrastructure, road, water, sewer, those types of facilities for the benefit of the homeowners in that community.
Okay, and those facilities, once transferred, they would still, even though we charge fees to build it, essentially, that the maintenance, and is that something that can be, can a TID pay for those things? The maintenance, the future maintenance of roads in a PID?
No, Madam, Mr. Chair, Commissioner O'Malley. The purpose of the district is to finance the infrastructure itself, the hard assets. That's so we're bonding. Bonding would be for capital improvement rather than for operation and maintenance. Although there certainly are options, as we've discussed in other districts, for discussions on how operation and maintenance costs could be shared or handled in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Okay. So we have a motion for approval, and I second it. So are we approving 1 and 2 at the same time?
Actually, you're approving the entire parcel, which is
1 and 2, I believe.
It's actually 4. It's 1, 4 through 11 parcels. Oh, well, motions, yes, 1 and 2, yes.
1 and 2. Okay, so all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Thank you so much, we appreciate that.
Thank you,
We will
Commissioners.
move to item 12, approvals. We will go to item 12A, commission filing for the vacancy of Representative District 27. We have a motion to fill this vacancy. Yes, Commissioner Talbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before we go through with this, I missed the October 9th meeting, and I apologize for that, and I understand that this had come up then. Representative Larrañaga served District 27 for 24 years. His untimely death opened this seat up at a time that is rather awkward 2 weeks before a general election where one of the two individuals will be chosen for that district. Representative Larrañaga would have probably run again had he not had health problems with his wife, and probably unbeknownst to him, 3 weeks later when he resigned, would die himself. I recognize the importance of us doing our civic duty and coming up with a replacement. However, at the same time, there is no activity between now and the election that I know of that this person would represent District 27 in, or even have the ability to really do anything, regardless of who we chose. I would ask that we reconsider nominating anyone and that we leave the seat open and allow the democratic process to take care of itself on November 6th. Both candidates are running. Both have been running now. Early voting has already started. Absentee ballots voting has already started. Things are already happening with this process. I feel it would be unnecessary for us to fill this seat simply to do that. I would rather respect Representative Larrañaga in his untimely death and allow the democratic process to take care of itself on November 6th. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to echo some of the comments of Commissioner Talbert as well. I served with Representative Larrañaga for 8 years. He was the longstanding member of House Appropriations and Finance Committee, did tremendous work putting the budget together. I'm going to get a little bit emotional. A lot of people in this room were at the Rosary, or at the funeral, and it was important for all of us to say goodbye to Representative Larrañaga. In fact, Mark was there. I think Mark Chavez said Larry Larrañaga's mom, or his wife, was his second grade teacher or third grade elementary school teacher. And it was just so nice to see so many Bernalillo County employees there to honor Mr. Larrañaga. And I want to echo the comments of Commissioner Talbert. I think we should also defer it till after the election. I actually looked up the legislative website to see what was coming up, and there is absolutely nothing between now and November 7th. And it's almost like we'll do a travesty to the person. If we don't nominate the person that's going to actually be elected, we're asking them to do something that they're not going to be able to continue to do after December. And I know it can be an honor for anybody to still serve for a couple of months, but it would just be in an interim level. And I think what's more important is that we nominate the person who does actually win the election, because then that person could attend those interim committees and prepare themselves, because we have an upcoming session in 60 days, or in just over 60 days, and it's a 60-day session. And so there's going to be a lot of work, preliminary work that person that gets nominated could do. And I would certainly implore the commission to respect and honor Representative Larrañaga and allow us to wait until after the election to make that nomination. And lastly, I just want to also say that I kind of looked up the regulations on this, and actually the governor's not even required to accept our nomination. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody, but I would think any governor of any state would prefer to nominate the person who actually won the election in such a short time frame. It would be different if we were 6 months out and there were a lot of interim work for that person to do, but there's literally nothing that they need to do between now and November 6th. With all due respect, Mr. Chair, I don't know, I know Mason's rules of order. Attorney Martinez has schooled me on a lot of Mason rules. I don't know Robert's rules as well. I would like to make a motion. I don't know if I can, had I spoken on something. In Mason's, you can't do that. In Robert's rules, I don't know if you can speak on a topic and then make a motion or not.
Yeah, I think you can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm getting a nod that you can. I would, in all due respect, Mr. Chair, and respect to Representative Larrañaga and Representative Larrañaga's family, I would move that we defer the nomination until after the election, which I think our next meeting would be November 13th.
So I have a motion for deferral. And a second. Any more comments? All in favor for deferral signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. We're going to move forward. You know, my comments are, you know, I don't think we're trying to disrespect anybody's service here. I think that, you know, it's a responsibility for the commission to do this, whether it was going to be 2 months, 2 weeks, or 6 months. I think that it's kind of not a really good idea of governing and leaving a district if they need to call somebody or talk to somebody, that there's somebody there sitting in that seat. I do respect the comments made by my colleagues up here, but I also feel that as a responsibility as a commission, that we just take those responsibilities and we move forward. But my comments are that there's 2 people that are on the list that are actually running for that seat. And I was a little confused to see people who weren't running for the seat to put their name in for that. And so I agree on that end. I'm like, why would you want to do that if you're not actually running? I think that both candidates have done their due diligence. And you're right, we're going to know here real soon. And you know, it'll change hands accordingly, or it'll run smoothly. We don't know the outcome of that. And I just don't feel like I'm really trying to disrespect a man's service. I just know that I'm just taking my responsibility and moving forward with it. Do we have any more comments? No? So do we have anybody that wants to be nominated? Do we have any nominations?
And Mr. Chairman, just
Yeah.
for clarification, because this district is solely within Bernalillo County, this commission does appoint. The recommendation does not go to the governor.
Yeah. So do you have any recommendation or any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate William B. Pratt to fill the vacancy in District 27.
Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes 3-1. Thank you. And thank you for your comments. They're very well stated, and I appreciate them very much. So now we'll go on to Planning and Development Services, the minimum wage cost of living increase proposal.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
So you move for approval? Second. And a second? So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I have some discussion on this. You know, I'm very proud of what this commission has done in the past to kind of look at how we look at economic development and look at, you know, if things are going in a good direction. I think as we look at the country as a whole, things look like they're moving in the direction that we all want. And so that's one of the successful things that we can claim about the current administration. And when that does happen, then I think we should be able to spread that. But my comments really are about that, you know, going to the $9 and 5 cents, it's still not a living wage. It's still, I think, way below a living wage. But I think it also takes in consideration, you know, that small business owner that can't afford to go right up to $15 an hour like some states are doing. I have a lot of friends that are small business owners, and I know that they're very concerned about, you know, moving something up that quickly. And so I really applaud the county and the commission, before I even joined the commission, to put something together that kind of moves it slowly and kind of celebrates not only economic development, but also considers small businesses in a really realistic way. All right. Other than that, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 4 votes. Commissioner Smith was excused. We'll go to item 13, Business Improvement and Performance Office, Bernalillo County Strategic Plan, discussion of FY 19-20 Strategic Plan and FY 18 Performance Highlights. Oh, okay. Now Commissioner Hart Stebbins is excused.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Maria Zuniga. I'm with the Business Improvement and Performance Office here at the county. I'm here before you this evening to provide you a recap of the county's fiscal year 18 performance and to also present you the fiscal year 19-20 strategic plan document. Both of these documents have been provided to you and are also available on the county's transparency website. The performance recap provides an overview of the strategic plan goal and highlights some of the many performance measures the county departments achieved in fiscal year 18. It also illustrates the business strategies, which are really the driving force in measuring performance, which includes things like increasing effectiveness, increasing efficiency, and being more innovative. Each of the 5 strategic plan goals is included in this document. So let's go ahead and take a look at the public safety goal, just to provide an example. At the top of the page, you can see the trend analysis for this goal. Below that, some of the objectives that were completed in fiscal year 18, such as the implementation of a new use of force program and expanding the firing range. As we move forward into fiscal years 19 and 20, departments and elected officials continue to align to the county's 5 strategic plan goals. Exactly what they're doing towards this effort is summarized in this strategic plan document and is also provided comprehensively on the county's live, interactive web pages and dashboards. For instance, in the strategic plan document, you can find out what county departments and elected officials are doing to support each goal. If we take a look at government accountability, you can see that there are 145 performance measures and objectives being tracked. The categorization of those measures is also provided, one of which is enhancing and automating customer service, where you can see a move to offering more online services for taxpayers and constituents. Just to provide a quick look at the level of information available on our transparency website, you can drill on any of the goals from the webpage. We'll go ahead and drill on government accountability, and then take a look at the Treasurer's Office and their effort to increase e-notifications sent to taxpayers. Here you can see in detail the work being done by the Treasurer's Office to enhance automation and to increase convenience for taxpayers with e-notifications. In summary, the strategic plan is the tool used by the county to ensure we're doing the right things that meet the needs of the community. It is important that we're both transparent and accountable in this task. The strategic plan has been in place for a number of years now and was built with public input. It is also flexible enough to meet the evolving needs of the community, and county departments and elected officials continue to do a good job in ensuring that it remains sustainable and adaptable. With that, I stand for any questions.
Do you have any questions? No? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we will go on to proposed Bernalillo County Board of County Commissioners meeting schedule for 2019.
Yes, correct. So what's before you as a discussion item is just the proposed 2019 BCC schedule. We'll come back for final adoption on the 13th. You all can take a look at it if there's any conflicts. We do take in consideration NMAC conferences, NACO conferences, Jewish, Christian, Muslim holidays. We do have a conflict for a Jewish holiday next year in October, so we made accommodations for that. Again, final adoption will be on the 13th. I stand for questions.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the commission required to have 2 administrative meetings a month?
That is correct. Per our rules of procedure, we're required to have 2 meetings a month on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday. We designate those dates. I can defer to legal on state requirements, but that is our internal rules.
Okay, whether or not we have something on the agenda or not?
It's discretion of the chair. We have an instance where we didn't have agenda items for various meetings, or there's conflicts for elections, or we don't have a quorum, then it's at the discretion of the chair to cancel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it. County Services, introduction of the Santa Elena Level B1 Development Agreement. Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I want to just put the discussion we're having this evening, and it's an introduction, so there's no vote on this process, but I wanted to, Julie, can you help me with this? Can that be seen? So this has been a process, and it started with the approval by the County Commission of a master plan back in June 16th of 2015. So we did an overlay of a little over 13,000 acres on a property that's been named Santa Elena. Then there was a development agreement, a level A agreement, which I've been saying that's a lot. So we have the plan, and then we have the level A agreement, and that's a watt. Then we have the approval of the level B agreement on August 30th of 17, and that's a little clearer watt.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you were saying there for a minute.
And now we're at level B1, and that's a how. So how are we going to implement A, and then more specifically B? And B1 is it's really a contract between the developer and the county. So there's some discussion around, well, can we just stop Santa Elena? A and B create Santa Elena. B1 starts the process of how are we going to do this? How are we going to implement the requirements of both A and B that have been approved by the commission? Where the ground starts to turn is at level C. So part of the level B agreement was that we wouldn't move to level C until there was an agreement with the water authority. I understand that's in process. I don't know if that's been finally signed off on, so I don't want to misspeak. So tonight, this is an introduction of how we're going to implement, and it's real technical. And the mistake I would make is to try to speak to all the technical stuff. So I co-chair a group of 16 county employees. For the last 10 months, we met every other Thursday, and in the off week, we met with the developer. So the developer proposed what the agreement might look like, and then we've had a process of about 10 months with a lot of people involved of coming up with a consensus around what we're going to introduce tonight. So that's the process that's been used. In your materials, we did several bullets that kind of explain better what I just went through. But I asked Enrico, because this is technical, to take over so I don't misspeak. Enrico.
Good evening, Chairman Quesada, members of the board, madam. So essentially, just to go over what Vince just introduced, the Level B development agreement is required by the planned communities criteria. It is very likely there will be other Level Bs, B1, B2, B3, and so on. The Level B plan is approximately 4,000 acres, a little over 4,000 acres, and it is much more detailed than the Level A. The Level B plan, in this case, identifies zoning. It identifies specific uses. It identifies major roadway locations, identifies locations for parks, open space, and so on. So the development agreement is the corollary to that, and staff spent a lot of time trying to make sure that overall that our county processes that are currently in place, our ordinances, subdivision ordinance, impact fee ordinance, all of those things remain in place and are not impacted by the Level B1 development agreement, in the sense that the process that we use and have been using for the last 15, 20, 25 years are still going to be used to evaluate the forthcoming applications, whether they be this year, next year, or the next 10 years, we took great pains to assure that those things would still be used in the format that we review current development and will continue to. That process, as we move through level B into level C, is much more of a staff process. It requires distribution and review from not only county agencies, but state agencies, some city agencies, a MAFCA, Water Authority, and so on. So the Level B plan, again, and the development agreement accompanying it that we've been working on was really an effort to try to create a framework so that staff would be able to evaluate this plan from every particular specialty or subject area of expertise in a way that would allow us to shape and comment and make sure that as this process moves forward, we're able to make sure that even though it's different, it's a master plan development, we are able to evaluate this from the perspective and a very consistent manner that we've been doing so. I know the applicant is here today, and we've worked very closely with them over the years. Over the months, seems like years. One of the things that was real important to us, we put a lot of time into the Level B1 development agreement, and as we introduce this evening, we want to make sure that, and we want to make it very clear that we are now open to discussion with the Board of County Commissioners, other staff from other agencies, community members, residents, anybody that wants to read this document and engage with us about why we did it, what we did, how we did it, what are the particular definitions. We wanted to take that opportunity to introduce this and bring it back at a later date and make sure that all of those questions are answered to the best of our ability. So we just didn't want to shortchange ourselves. So having said that, and I'm sure the applicant is here with any additional comments, I stand for any additional questions and look forward to greeting and addressing anybody that may have questions moving forward prior to approval at a future date. I stand for any questions.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, and you know, I can have a meeting with you to go over some specifics. I think that's going to be very important. But when I look at these areas, what's going to be very important to me is to get a better understanding of who pays for what, really, ultimately. We are looking at essentially there's, I don't know how many tax increment districts are within this 4,000, is it one? Is it two? 4,000?
A little over 4,000 acres with the Level B.
So are there, how many, because I know there was a bunch of districts within there, so TIDs.
There are TIDs and PIDs included in this area.
Right. So how many TIDs are in this district, do you know?
I didn't really look much at this. This really didn't address so much the TID and the PID. It really addressed, and we will discuss that, and we're happy to discuss that. We were really making sure that in terms of our internal mechanisms and our machinery, that this moves through that process in the same way that we're accustomed to, and that as we move toward the question of who pays for what, as you get towards the platting process, the subdivision improvement agreements, and those matters, that we're able to then assign that type of responsibility in terms of the construction of infrastructure to the appropriate party, and we'd be happy to discuss that with you. Okay. So we felt very comfortable about that part. The discussion with the developer is an obvious one, right? The developer is often in the case where they don't quite know what parts they're going to have development pressure to approve first. Of course, and the county staff wants to know very far in advance what areas are going to be developed, because we want to be able to have appropriate funding for the county's portion or proportionate share of that infrastructure. So that's a discussion we would like to have with anyone that wants to have that with us.
Okay. I just mentioned that just because of an experience that I had early on when I became a city councilor, and I represented an area called Vista del Norte, which is pretty built out now. It's the one that has the really big field, and we were able to get money for the Balloon Fiesta site. But I was immediately made aware that there were 3 very big pieces of property within that development that had signs that said "Park coming soon." That was 7 years had passed. What's going on here? Well, the developer had promised to build these 3 parks. They had the land identified. apparently we did have some kind of fee, park fee associated per home. It was $30. Thus became this big fight over impact fees for the city of Albuquerque, which is, obviously I had my view on that. But what that took is a period, probably over a period of 3 years, almost $2 million, not to mention the other piece, which was like $7 million, to build out these parks. And my concern is that when you have that kind of situation, you are pulling money, you're in competition for other resources in a community. In this case, there shouldn't be too much competition because there's a tax increment district, right? So they should be able to pay for some. So that's what's going to be real important to me, is what the bottom line. Who's going to pay for what, and how are things going to be designated, so we make sure that we have the amenities that people need in a district. That would be my concern. That said, we'll set up a meeting to discuss those details.
Those are valid points, Commissioner. Thank
Chairman
you so
Quesada,
much.
Commissioner O'Malley, we have the same questions, and there were many hours dedicated to that discussion.
So valid points. Thank you so much. I think we'll probably, dive in a little deeper once we get closer. I understand, where they're at on land use, because you need to know what's going in first before you can really figure that part out. But thank you so much. We will go down to announcement of the next commission meeting, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018 zoning meeting at 3 p.m. here in the Vincent E. Griego Chamber. Tuesday, November 13th, 2018 Board of Finance meeting at 4:30 here at the Vincent E. Griego Chamber. And Tuesday, November 13th is the administrative meeting at 5 p.m. here in the Vincent E. Griego Chamber. If there is no other business, this meeting is adjourned.